It's one that we've gotten better at dealing with over time. And it's not just Hezbollah. We just had a case that came to light of an Iranian guy who was indicted, at least in the first instance, for having kind of underage porn on his system that he was sharing with people. But the FBI noted in a memo to the judge requesting that he not be let out on bail that actually he's also a people smuggler, and in at least one case had smuggled into the country someone who admitted he was a member of Iran's Quds force, which is kind of the foreign operations special forces element of Iran that works closely with Hezbollah. At the end of the day, to hark back to that 1979 revolution, that revolution was never tended to end at the borders of Iran. So there's an army, the Artesh, whose job is to defend the borders of Iran. And then there's the Revolutionary Guard Corps, whose job is to defend the revolution. And within the Revolutionary Guard Corps, there's something called the Quds Force. Quds means Jerusalem. The Quds Force is there to export the revolution. And it's the main component liaising with the Hezbollahs and others, liaised with Hamas in the lead up to October 7th, for example, and took some losses just recently by the Israelis. It's one that we've gotten better at dealing with over time. And it's not just Hezbollah. We just had a case that came to light of an Iranian guy who was indicted, at least in the first instance, for having kind of underage porn on his system that he was sharing with people. But the FBI noted in a memo to the judge requesting that he not be let out on bail that actually he's also a people smuggler, and in at least one case had smuggled into the country someone who admitted he was a member of Iran's Quds force, which is kind of the foreign operations special forces element of Iran that works closely with Hezbollah. At the end of the day, to hark back to that 1979 revolution, that revolution was never tended to end at the borders of Iran. So there's an army, the Artesh, whose job is to defend the borders of Iran. And then there's the Revolutionary Guard Corps, whose job is to defend the revolution. And within the Revolutionary Guard Corps, there's something called the Quds Force. Quds means Jerusalem. The Quds Force is there to export the revolution. And it's the main component liaising with the Hezbollahs and others, liaised with Hamas in the lead up to October 7th, for example, and took some losses just recently by the Israelis. But we have some number of cases where people related to the Quds Force from Iran or Hezbollah have been smuggled across the border. I'm actually impressed at how few cases we can actually point to and say this happened then. Mostly it's a vulnerability.
Well, you know what was interesting, and just because of my experience with the connection to seeing the Border Patrol and know it happened, there was a lot of times when some individuals from the Middle East were apprehended, and it was kind of swept under the rug in the sense of not giving national attention to it because not to make it look like they were targeting Middle Easterns, as well as just wasn't something that was allowed by the organization to post on social media that they've apprehended, Middle Eastern individuals, a group of them or one or two or three. Yeah. So there is a number somewhere out there in the past 4 years or so, but it wasn't public knowledge very much. And I'm not sure why that was really, but
I remember there was some cases where they weren't sure how to talk about it because they didn't have hard intel. The guy was Hezbollah, but he had some kind of Hezbollah tattoos, this type of thing. We had a case 6 months, maybe a little bit more ago, where a guy comes in and says, I at one point in my life intended to be a Hezbollah suicide bomber, but not anymore. Like there's some weird cases like that. But to my knowledge, and I don't remember from when I was in government either, and maybe I'm wrong, but certainly now I don't remember any place where there's like a number of here's cases of what we have known, or here's cases where maybe it might have been. And I imagine there are a whole bunch of reasons why people were wary of trying to collect that data when they couldn't definitively say yay or nay.
Hey guys, I want to give a shout out to a company I've trusted for over 11 years, First Form. They make high quality supplements, protein powders, vitamins, performance products, everything you need to support your health, fitness, and recovery. Look, my weight goes up and down like a lot of us, but when I'm dialed in and focused on my health, these are the products I trust. Their Formula 1 protein powder is my go-to after every workout. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, hands down, is my favorite flavor. I use it after every workout and it tastes amazing. They have other flavors too, like salted caramel, red velvet, and chocolate mint cookie. Not a protein shake person? No problem. Their protein bars taste like candy bars, and my favorite flavor is cookie dough. All the First Form products are made here in the US. No junk, no sketchy ingredients, no BS. Orders over $75 is shipped for free, and if you don't love it, they'll actually give you 110% of your money back. Go check out firstform.com/Borderland now.
Now, in my notes here, it says that Hezbollah has begun building a presence in Latin America. Can you tell me more about that and how long has that been going?
So I wouldn't say has begun building. This goes back to the beginning, right? Hezbollah has been in South America. It's been in Africa for a very long time. Hezbollah was founded in 1982 in Lebanon. And long before then, there were large Lebanese diaspora communities in places like South America and in Africa, having to do with things like people wanting to get their kids out of the country so that they wouldn't be drafted into the Ottoman army, or farmers sending their kids abroad to try and, do better than they'd be able to do in Lebanon when there was severe drought. And so then before Hezbollah, the main Shia organization was Amal. And then as Hezbollah was founded and became more prominent and got a lot more backing and money and weapons from Iran, the same thing started happening in the diaspora. And these communities that used to support Amal started supporting Hezbollah. So we see Hezbollah activity popping up in places like South America around the same time Hezbollah was founded back in Lebanon, around 1982. And the cases go way, way back.
That's crazy to hear. So when we say Hezbollah, just help me out because I might be missing. This is just a belief system, right? This is just a group of individuals who believe in this idea, right?
Look, it's a belief system, but it's more, because Hezbollah is an organization. It has membership. It has sympathizers, and it has operatives. Not every person who sympathizes with Hezbollah is an actual card-carrying member. Not every card-carrying member is trained to carry out operations. This is a movement. It is a political party in Lebanon where it's not illegal. It does run social service organizations in Lebanon. It's a religious organization. Many people support Hezbollah not because of its terrorism, but despite it, or because they don't believe that Hezbollah has done any of the things that we say they've done. That's just a Zionist American conspiracy, right? They support Hezbollah because Hezbollah is the main Shia organization that stands up for the Shia, who were traditionally the downtrodden in Lebanon. And if they didn't have people to step up for them, nobody would. Some people like Hezbollah because they're the group that has successfully stuck their finger in Israel's eye from time to time, in particular in the 2006 war, less so recently.
How are they? So, and reading the notes, I was like, man, this is crazy. So is there intel or information proving that Hezbollah is also working with cartels in some capacity, whether it be just financially, whether it be whatever it is?
Vince, you trying to wind me up? So this is a big, 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 big question, okay? And it comes down to this. It's a little bit of how you try and define the problem set. Is it Hezbollah Incorporated that is laundering the proceeds of narcotic sales for the cartels? Or is it individuals acting in their individual capacity who happen to be Hezbollah operatives or sympathizers and happen to be giving some of that money to Hezbollah? But if they were doctors and lawyers, they'd be giving some of that money to Hezbollah. To me, it's a distinction without a difference. It's led to big debates within the U.S. government, pitting the military and law enforcement on one side and certain segments of the U.S. intelligence community on the other. It's not quite that cut and dry, but you'll give me that poetic license. And I, for one, have often felt caught in the middle, both when I was the head of Deputy Chief of Intel at Treasury. We were looking really closely, a congressionally created Center of Excellence on terror financing at this issue, and as an expert out of government since. To my mind, and I've written about this extensively in the book and elsewhere, there is no question that Hezbollah has done things like put itself out there to launder funds for the cartels. And they've done it very successfully. The DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, has case after case after case. And in one case, the mistress of one of the most senior Hezbollah guys comes to Atlanta, Georgia to get a nose job. While she's there, DEA runs an op, and they're pretty damn good at what they do. I don't think most people realize how much experience DEA has on kind of the blacker side of things. And she thinks she's talking to criminals. And at one point, they basically ask her to establish her bona fides. How do we know you are who you say you are, that you have contacts with the people you say? If she goes, oh, come here. She pulls him over to her laptop and calls up her boyfriend, who's one like the top guys in Hezbollah. And the DEA agents, like their heads almost explode. She gets arrested. She cooperated. She's since been deported. A lawyer in Paris was arrested in the same time, a joint op with the French. There was something called Operation Cedar, U.S. and 7 European countries working together, cracking down on used car dealerships. People are buying, expensive watches. It's an easy way to launder the cash. I mean, case after case after case after case. Does that mean that the head of Hezbollah is like checking the books every day? I'm sure not. But is Hezbollah benefiting from this? Absolutely. To the extent that they were ultimately the U.S. government had to shut down the Lebanese Canadian bank, this massive bank in Lebanon, because Hezbollah was paying the bankers to literally look the other way while I deposit the criminal proceeds from these narcotic sales. And to me, it's absolutely the case. Hezbollah is in drug production in the Bekaa Valley. It's in Captagon. It's been in marijuana and hashish there. But the big stuff is working with the cartels, not to produce, but to help move and, much more importantly, launder the proceeds.
Whoa, that's crazy. Yeah, and I wasn't sure exactly at what level, but you're saying they've produced, but as well as laundering and as well as moving it. It's a lot more than I expected. How come this is the first time I've ever heard of this?
You're hurting my feelings, because if you say that, it means you haven't been reading my stuff, and I want you to know, I'm a little bit crushed. I'm going to
start reading.
I don't think you appreciate how good a writer I am.
Man. Well, this is, I guess my world has always been so deep into the cartel space, so much so, but not outside of that, not knowing Hezbollah was even involved in any capacity.